This one I'm going to make a little bit quick. We've got this section is on loans, and so you're going to see mortgages and student loans and all kinds of things. So some terminology that you'll want to be aware of is listed here. I'm not going to go through all that. The main thing I want you to practice is using your calculator to calculate these loan payments. And so keep in mind that when we do this N, it's number of months, not years. So that's an important thing just to remember. I is the interest rate as a percent, not a decimal. Present value is the amount of the mortgage or amount of the student loan or whatever it is. Future value is 0 because we're presumably paying it down to 0. Payments per year, compoundings per year are 12. So if I ever skip these parts, you just assume it's 0, 12, 12. And this is the one we're solving for payment. And so that's the calculation. And there's that big obnoxious formula that you're welcome to use, and Alex will show you how to use it if you want to practice that. And I encourage you, to be honest, to try it once or twice just so you see that formula and see how it works. But after that, I don't really care if you use it, to be honest. So keep that in mind. This first example, I'm going to kind of just go through just really quickly. You've got a down payment you're calculating. The amount of the mortgage is just you subtract the down payment. So that's how much you're borrowing. If we're paying any points, that's just a point is considered a percent of the borrowed amount. So if you're paying 3 points, it's that. That's just something you pay up front. But the amount of the monthly payment, that it forgets any escrow, taxes, insurance. We're just getting technical on things that you might actually see. So we're not worried about those things. That big N, where does that come from? It's 30 times 12. So 30 years, 12 months, so that's 360. That means that's a total number of payments. I think of it that way. 6.5% on this loan. $96,000 is what we're borrowing, and then we're calculating this payment. That's what the formula would do for you, and payment formula would calculate. And so how do we do that? I'll get the calculator out and show you that. I'll clear everything off, get out of here. And so just to show you how to get to that screen, oops, get over there, there we go. How to get to that screen, we press the apps button, we press enter, we press enter again to get to this solver, and so then we enter our information. N is 360, I we know to be 6.5, present value was at 96,000. Payment is what we want, so that was from another problem, but I'm going to leave it there. Future value is 0, payments per year and compoundings per year are both 12. So I go back to the payment line. So notice the cursor is flashing here, and that's very important to do that. Then green alpha and solve. So notice the word solve is above the enter key, so that's why I hit the green alpha. Solve is telling my payment is at 606.79 if we round to the nearest penny. And so there's where that comes from. So there's how you get your payment. If you're ever asked total cost, that is the total cost that we spent on interest or on payments, minus any minus the mortgage, or minus the amount we borrowed. So we paid this number 360 times, and then we subtract what was borrowed, and so that is how much we spent on interest on 30 years. So that's kind of amazing and eye-opening. Let's see, there's another question, very, very similar. And so you get your down payment, you take that off, there's how much you're borrowing. There's your points if you're going to pay points, and I don't think Alex always asks you about points very often or ever. So this one is only a 15-year loan, so 12 times 15 is 180. Interest rate, present value, and then there's where you calculate the payment. That came out to be $638.96. Another question, comparing loans, and I think Alex has you compare loans. Sometimes it's student loans, sometimes it may be a mortgage. So you compare those two scenarios. So again, we go through both of these things. Here's where we calculated the two different payments. There's how much you spend on interest over the life of those two loans. Which is a better deal, which is more economical, always or almost always financing it over fewer years will cost you less in interest, but your payment's more. So you kind of got to weigh what you can afford to do. So it's just asking to compare the interest rates. And the last thing we'll talk about is how to start an amortization table. And this is just the process for paying off a loan and what that looks like. And so I've just kind of typed this out so you can see an example. Alex has you do the first row or so and then skip down. So if you borrow $150,000, then you 5% for 1/12 of a year is $625. So that's how much interest you had in 1 month. If you already have calculated the interest, or sorry, you already calculated the payment as $805.23, then $625 taken away from that number tells you the rest of it went to principal. And so that principal is what comes off the balance. And so you subtract that, and so you get a new loan balance. And then you start over with this number as you calculate the interest. So that number, 5% for 1/12 of a year, gives you an amount spent on interest. You take that interest away from your payment to get the amount that went toward principal, and then you subtract that amount away from that previous balance on this line. And then you just repeat that cycle. And so really it's just a matter of understanding that if you started with a loan balance and you calculated the payment based on this interest rate and the other pertinent facts, then it's really just subtraction over and over and over again. And that's even true, and Alex does this to you. Even if you skip down many rows to however, so say this is the 70th payment, and if they give that to you, then it's just there's your new starting number right here, and you calculate 5% of that for 1/12 of a year, and it is that much in interest. And by the way, if you do this wrong and this interest is way more than your payment, then that's kind of a telling sign that you messed something up. So then you subtract that off, and notice as the payments go down, the amount that you get to put toward principal is bigger and bigger and bigger. And so then that comes off the principal, and there's your new loan balance. And so practicing that just to see how an amortization table is done is kind of a neat exercise. And there's a couple questions like that in Alex.